The unwanted princess. The room was full of lights, music, and alien royalty. Banners floated above tall silver pillars. Golden creatures from distant stars stood in a perfect line. They had gathered to witness something rare, a royal choosing. In the center stood the tiny alien princess. Her skin was soft blue like the sky before night. She wore a silver dress made from threads of starlight. Her eyes, large and sad, moved from one face to another. She waited. Her fingers trembled. She had been waiting her whole life for this moment, but no one stepped forward. One by one, the alien males turned away. "She's too small," one of them whispered. "A weak heir," said another. "Her mind is broken," a third laughed. The princess heard it all. She lowered her head. This was her choosing ceremony, a tradition passed down for thousands of years. The strongest males from all across the galaxy had come to win her hand. But now they laughed and mocked. Her father, the emperor, sat in silence. His jaw was tight. His eyes were cold. To him, she was a failure. The princess tried to speak. Her lips moved, but no words came. Her voice, once taken by illness, had never fully returned. It made her seem even more fragile. But far back in the hall near the pillars, someone did not laugh. A human. He stood still, quiet, with no crown and no titles. His clothes were plain, his eyes dark. But he watched her, not with mockery, not with disgust, but with curiosity. He was not here to marry. Humans were not part of this tradition. They were guests, observers. But something about the girl had caught his attention. She looked so alone. The ceremony ended in shame. The drums stopped. The lights faded. The crowd slowly left the hall, some shaking their heads, some still chuckling. The princess stood frozen, like a statue left behind, in an empty room. But the human didn't leave. He waited until the room was almost empty, then he walked toward the center. She saw him coming and flinched. Her hands pulled the fabric of her dress close like it could hide her. He stopped a few steps away and spoke softly. "Are you cold?" She blinked. No one had ever asked her that. Not here. Not in this palace. Not after the sickness. He reached into his coat and pulled out a scarf. It was old, earth-made, soft. He held it out to her. "You can take it, if you want," he said. The princess stared. She didn't move. Her lips trembled, but again, no words came. The human didn't push. He just sat down on the floor, cross-legged, like they were sitting in a quiet forest. "They were wrong," he said after a while. "About you." She looked at him again. "They think strength is in muscle and voice, but it's not. Not always." He smiled gently. "Sometimes strength is in silence, in surviving things no one else can." A tear rolled down her cheek. From the shadows above, cameras recorded it all. Hidden observers, royal advisors, and noble spies watched with sharp eyes. "Why is the human still here?" one of them asked. "He has no right," said another. But no one dared to interrupt. Not yet. The girl slowly stepped forward. Her fingers touched the scarf. She didn't take it. But she touched it. Then she looked at the human's face. Not with fear. Not anymore. With wonder. She had never met someone who didn't want anything from her. No power. No titles. No favor. Just warmth. Just a scarf. As night fell, the hall emptied fully. The girl walked alone back to her chambers, the scarf folded in her hands. Her father would be angry. Her advisors would be disappointed. The empire would whisper of shame. But for the first time in years, she didn't care. Because someone had looked at her and seen more than a title. He had seen her. A stranger stays behind. The night was quiet, but her heart was not. She sat in her chamber, holding the human's scarf in both hands. She had not spoken a word to him. Yet it felt like he had heard. Something deeper than words. Something hidden inside her pain. Outside her door, the guards whispered. They always did. They called her names when they thought she couldn't hear. Ghost, mute, doll. But tonight something was different. Because someone had stayed behind. Someone who didn't belong. In the great hall, after all guests had left, the human remained. He stood at the edge of the moonlit balcony, looking over the silent city of towers. A royal advisor stepped out from the shadows. His face was narrow, sharp like a blade. You have no right to stay here, the advisor said. Your invitation ends with the ceremony. The human turned his head slightly. I didn't come for the ceremony, he said. Then why are you still here? The human smiled faintly. Because she didn't walk away. The advisor narrowed his eyes. She is a royal heir. Your kind were invited as observers. Nothing more. I know what I was invited as, the human said calmly. But I also know what I saw. Hours passed. Inside her chamber, the princess stood at the window, watching the stars move. Her hands were shaking, not with fear, but with the memory of something warm. She still felt the weight of his eyes, the kindness in his voice. She had no plan. She had no power. But something inside her, something buried deep, told her she needed to see him again. Just once, in the palace garden under glowing trees and floating lights, the human sat alone. He was drawing in a small notebook. Sketches. Nothing special. Just lines. Then he heard the softest sound. Not a voice. Bare footsteps. She had come. The princess stepped into the garden like a shadow, silent, unsure, like a bird afraid of being trapped again. He didn't rise. He didn't speak. He only smiled and moved over on the stone bench, inviting her to sit. She looked around, afraid of spies. But still, she moved forward and sat beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then, without looking up, he said, You're not weak, you're not broken. They just don't know what strength looks like. The princess looked at the stars. Tears filled her eyes again. Then, very slowly, she raised her hand and signed something. He stared at her fingers, confused. She signed again. Slower. His eyes widened. You're using Earth sign, he said. She gave the smallest nod. How did she know? Before he could ask, she pulled something from her sleeve. A tiny, hidden device. An old translator, broken and dusty. It buzzed to life and spoke in a soft, shaky voice. Learned, long time ago. Wanted to understand humans. His heart twisted. She had tried to learn his kind. Alone. In silence. You learned for us? He asked. The device crackled. No. Not for them. For me. For the first time, she met his eyes. You speak like no one else, the translator said. You see me. A soft breeze moved between them. She shivered slightly. He reached into his coat again, pulling out another thing, a small packet of food. Simple earth snacks. He offered one to her. She took it carefully as if it were a treasure. They ate in silence, and then she laughed, a small sound, quiet and broken, but a laugh. He looked at her, amazed. You just laughed, he said. She nodded, the translator catching her next words. First time in years. But far above the garden, hidden in the wall, a red light blinked. Someone was watching. In the emperor's secret chamber, advisors gathered. He's not leaving, one said. He's dangerous, another added. He is only human. A third scoffed, but the emperor said nothing. He stared at the screen, at the garden. His daughter was smiling, and for some reason, that made him furious. Back in the garden, the human stood up. I should go before they arrest me for sitting on a bench, he joked. She smiled again. Then, to his surprise, she stood too. She reached out and gently touched his hand. His fingers curled around hers, soft, careful, respectful, but that single touch changed everything, because in that moment, Both of them knew. Something had started. Something no empire could stop. Whispers in the garden. The garden felt like another world. Moon lamps floated gently in the air. Glowing vines wrapped around tall, stone pillars. Alien flowers shimmered in blue light, and two shapes sat beneath a silver-leaf tree, a tiny princess and a quiet human man. They spoke without speaking. Her voice was still broken. His words were gentle, slow, careful, but even silence had a rhythm, and tonight something sacred passed between them. "Why did you stay?" she signed using Earth-style hand gestures. The translator clipped to her sleeve, blinked green, and whispered her words. The human thought for a while. He looked at the stars, then back at her. "Because you looked like you needed someone to stay." She looked down at her hands. "Everyone leaves," the translator said for her. "I won't," he replied. Her breath caught. She turned away, ashamed of the tears threatening to fall again. He didn't speak, just waited. Gently. Then she asked him a question no one else had ever cared to ask. "What is Earth like?" He smiled. "Messy, loud, full of broken things, but beautiful too, and free." "Free?" "Yes. We choose who we love. No one chooses for us." The princess's lips parted. Her translator struggled to form the words. "No contracts?" He shook his head. "No contracts, just hearts." She looked at him like he had just described a dream she didn't know she was allowed to have. But far above them, on a silent balcony, a figure stood watching. The emperor's sister. A cold-eyed woman with skin like iron and a heart carved from stone. She watched the two shadows below, sitting too close, speaking too freely. "He's poisoning her," she whispered, with hope. The next morning, the palace felt colder. The princess was summoned to the high chamber. Dozens of royal advisors sat in a circle, their robes heavy with medals, their eyes full of judgment. Her father, the emperor, said nothing. He only stared. "You have embarrassed your bloodline," one of the advisors said. "You let a human touch you," said another. "Do you even understand what shame that brings to the throne?" The princess stood still. She did not deny it. She did not explain. She simply stood with her hands at her sides. Calm, silent, strong. It was the first time they truly feared her. Meanwhile, deep inside the palace, the human was taken to a quiet room. No windows, no guards, just a chair. And across from him sat a very old alien man dressed in black. "You are brave," the old one said. The human stayed quiet, but foolish, he continued. "You are touching fire, boy, and it will burn you." "Then let it burn," the human replied. The old man laughed softly. "Do you love her?" The human didn't answer. "Ah, that silence says everything." The old man leaned closer. "Listen carefully," he said. "There is a way you can keep her, but not here." That night, the princess returned to the garden. She waited. For hours, but the human didn't come. She felt a strange ache in her chest. Not fear, not panic, something worse. Emptiness. Somewhere else in the palace. The human was walking through secret tunnels, guided by the old man, past walls lined with glowing crystals and ancient machines. "They will never let you take her," the old man said. "But there is a place, a passage, forgotten by most. Only one ship fits through." The human looked back. "And she'll be safe?" "Only if you leave before the moon sets tomorrow." Later that night, the princess returned to her room. She found a small folded paper on her bed, written in her language in uneven handwriting. "Meet me where the vines touch the black gate. No guards, no crown. Just you." She held the note close, then whispered to herself through her broken translator, "He didn't leave me." But what neither of them knew was that someone else had read the note first. A jealous suitor, an alien noble rejected by the council, his pride shattered, his blood boiling. "He will not take her," he he growled. He summoned his private guards. Prepare the cages. In the final moments before dawn, the princess slipped through the halls, barefoot, cloaked, heart pounding. The vines near the black gate shimmered in starlight, and there he was, the human, waiting. He reached for her hand. She didn't hesitate. Suddenly, shouts, flashing lights, a trap. Hidden guards leapt from the shadows. Energy nets flew through the air. The human grabbed the princess and ran. She didn't scream. She didn't stumble. She just held his hand tighter. They dashed into the lower tunnels. Behind them, footsteps chased. A voice echoed across the stone walls. The jealous noble's voice. Give her up, human. She belongs to us. The human turned and shouted back, no, she belongs to herself. And with that, they vanished into the darkness. The fall beneath the palace. The tunnels twisted like the roots of a dying tree. The human ran ahead, holding the princess's hand. Behind them, footsteps echoed, shouts bounced off stone, and light from alien weapons flashed against the dark walls. But they didn't stop running. The air was cold and damp. Old pipes dripped. The princess's feet were bleeding, her cloak had torn. But she kept going because he hadn't let go of her hand. And because he hadn't let go, she didn't let go either. Down here, the human shouted, turning sharply, into a side passage. It was narrow, tight, too small for the tall armored guards chasing them. They ducked into a forgotten shaft, a service tunnel from centuries ago, untouched by royal feet. As they slid down the rusted slope, the princess whispered into her translator, "Where are we going?" "Somewhere they forgot," he answered. They reached an old chamber. Metal doors, rusted shut, air thick with dust. The only light came from the human's small wrist torch. The princess leaned against the wall, gasping. Her hands shook. Her legs were weak. And still, she looked at him and said, "I'm not afraid." He smiled. "You're stronger than all of them." But then, a sound. Not footsteps. A voice. From a speaker hidden in the ceiling. "You cannot run from blood." The princess froze. It was her father, the emperor, his voice calm and cold filled the room like poison gas. "You shame yourself," the voice said. "You shame your mother's name." "And for what? For this creature who bleeds and dies like an insect?" The human stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. The voice laughed, "He will fall, and when he does, you will return. Broken, quiet, like before." Then silence, and then, boom. The wall behind them exploded. They were thrown forward. The human landed hard, shielding her again. But this time, he didn't rise. Blood. Real blood. Leaking from his shoulder. His side. The princess crawled toward him, panic in her eyes. Her translator flickered. "Stay. With me. Please." He coughed but smiled. "Still not afraid?" She shook her head, tears falling now. His blood mixed with the dust. His breaths were short. Then, a whisper from her lips. "I can't lose you." But suddenly, a light blinked red on his wrist. His backup device. A signal. Someone was still helping him. In a flash, the ceiling above cracked open and a small shuttle descended. Quiet and quick, built for escapes. An old man leaned out. The same one who had guided the human earlier. "Get him in," the old man shouted. "Now!" The princess lifted the human's arm over her shoulders. She carried him step by step. The girl they had called weak. The girl they had thrown away. Inside the shuttle, alarms blared. Enemy fire burst in the distance. The human fell into a seat, eyes barely open. The princess turned to the old man. "Save him," her translator whispered. "We'll try," he replied, "but we must leave. Now." The shuttle took off, darting into the atmosphere. Behind them, palace defenses lit up the sky. They were being hunted. But ahead, space opened like a black sea, and somewhere within that sea, freedom waited. For Hours, the human slept, barely breathing. The princess sat beside him, holding his hand. She didn't eat. She didn't sleep. She only watched him and remembered. Long ago, when she was a child, her mother had told her a story. A story about love, without rules. A bond not chosen by war or blood, but by hearts. Her mother had died shortly after. The court erased the story, told her love was a lie. Only alliances mattered. But now the story had returned. Because of him. The shuttle landed on an old, dead moon once used as a mining base, abandoned now, forgotten. We're safe for now, the old man said. No one will find you here. The human was placed in a small recovery bed. Machines began to work, healing him slowly. The princess sat alone in the next room. Her hands were bloody, her face pale, and on the wall behind her, a door she had never seen before. Something called to her. She stepped toward it. The old man tried to stop her. Don't, he warned. Why? Because what's inside was hidden for a reason. But she opened the door. Inside, a room full of ancient relics, and in the middle, a hologram of her mother, younger, brighter. The princess gasped. The hologram began to speak. If you're seeing this, it means you found your own path. The princess dropped to her knees. They told you I died sick, the hologram said. But that's not true. I died because I loved someone the Empire didn't approve of. The princess's breath caught. Her mother had fallen in love with someone outside the bloodline too. They erased me. But they couldn't erase you. The hologram faded. But the meaning stayed. The princess stood slowly, not as a broken girl, but as something new. Back in the main room, the human opened his eyes. She walked to him, sat beside him, and whispered through her voice device. You didn't just save me. You found me. Blood they tried to erase. The moon was silent. Dust floated through the cold air. Old machines hummed in broken rhythms. No cities, no lights, no people. Just ruins. And the girl they all rejected. The tiny alien princess stood at the entrance of the base, watching the stars. Inside, the human lay still, recovering. Machines healed his wounds, but not fast enough. They didn't have time. They never did. A sharp beep echoed through the corridor. A signal. The old man rushed in, face pale. They found us, he said. Bounty hunters, Imperial class. How long? She asked, voice trembling through her translator. An hour, maybe less. The princess looked at the bed where the human slept. He didn't know yet. He was still too weak to fight. But she wasn't. Not anymore. The old man followed her as she walked through the dusty halls of the moon base. We can escape, he said. If we move now. No, she interrupted. Her voice was soft but steady. I'm done running. The old man stopped. For a moment, he saw her not as a girl, but as something more, like her mother. She entered a locked chamber beneath the base. The old computers flickered to life as she placed her hand on the console. Her blood, coded with royal encryption, unlocked what no one else could. A glowing map appeared. It showed the entire Imperial network, ships, codes, weak spots. Her eyes narrowed. She wasn't just going to hide. She was going to fight. On the human's wrist, his device buzzed. He opened his eyes, groaning softly. Pain rippled through his body. He tried to sit, but a hand stopped him. Her hand. She knelt beside him. They're coming, she said through the translator. You have to go. He tried to speak, but she shook her head. Not this time, she added. I'll stop them. His voice cracked. How? She smiled. Not softly, not shyly. A sharp smile, like a queen. They forgot what flows in my blood. As the first bounty ship broke the moon's orbit, the princess walked to the surface alone. Her silver cloak snapped in the wind. She wore no armor, no crown, just her own strength. The bounty hunters landed in black vessels, tall, Masked, brutal creatures stepped out, armored from head to toe, trained killers. They looked at her and laughed. "This is the prize?" One of them sneered. Barely a child. But when she raised her hand, the sky responded. The old base had weapons buried deep beneath it, systems locked away by ancient codes. Her codes. Her blood unlocked everything. The ground shook. Turrets rose from the dust. The sky turned red with alarms, and the hunters stopped laughing. But it wasn't enough. They had numbers. They had firepower. And worst of all, they had her father's orders. "Bring her back breathing," the lead hunter growled. "But break her legs if she runs," they charged, and she stood alone, until he came, the human, limping, weak, but still walking. He took her hand again, just like the first day, and he whispered, "I told you I won't let go." She didn't argue. They turned together, and they fought. They fought not like warriors, but like survivors. She used ancient energy weapons, guiding them with perfect aim. He used his fists, his fire, his rage. Together, they took down the first wave, but more came, more shadows, more blades. The sky above opened. A massive imperial dreadnought arrived, and from within, her father's voice, booming across the stars. "You will kneel, daughter. You will obey." But she looked up at the giant ship and screamed back, "Never again." In that moment, something inside her broke free. A flash of light burst from her chest. The ground cracked beneath her feet. Her eyes glowed. She floated. The hunters froze. So did the human. "What is she?" someone whispered. The answer was clear. She was not just a princess. She was the last descendant of an ancient bloodline, one the Empire had tried to erase, one with power too dangerous to control. She had inherited the storm. Lightning fell from the sky. Ships burned in midair. The dreadnought trembled, and the Emperor watched in silence, his face pale for the first time in decades. She wasn't small anymore. She wasn't weak. She wasn't theirs. The human fell to his knees not from fear, but from awe, and she floated down to him, her light dimming, her power now calm. She knelt beside him and whispered through her translator, "You made me. Remember who I am?" He touched her face gently. "No," he whispered. "You made me believe who you could become." Behind them, the old man opened a secret hatch beneath the ruins. "Come," he said. "This war has only begun." The princess turned one last time to face the sky. Her voice echoed like thunder across the stars. "Tell the Empire I'm not coming home." The girl who became a myth. They called her a storm. They called her a traitor. They called her a god. But she didn't care about any of those names, because to the only person who mattered, she was still just the girl who once cried in silence. 3 suns circled the edge of the broken system where they hid now. A world with no name. A jungle moon overrun by beasts and silence. The Empire's reach didn't come this far, but the whispers did. From the great palaces of the Andari lords to the frozen moons of the Voskin, one name spread like fire, the princess who defied her crown, the one with light in her blood, the one who stood beside a human. Children repeated her story. Priests feared her name. And deep in secret meetings, empires began to wonder, what if she returns? What if she doesn't kneel ever again? She sat alone by a dark river. Her cloak was torn. Her hands were covered in cuts. Her power had changed her and drained her. For days after the escape, she didn't speak. She only stared at the sky, not because she was afraid, but because she remembered her mother's voice. The story of their hidden bloodline, a gift called Stormbirth, a power only born once in 1,000 years, a gift that was supposed to be destroyed. She was never meant to survive. Yet here she was, and now they all feared her. Behind her, the human approached slowly, still limping, still healing, but always with her. "You haven't slept," he said. She didn't answer. He sat beside her, not touching, not asking, just being there. Then she finally whispered, "They will keep coming." "Yes," he said, "and next time, it won't be hunters. It'll be kings." He nodded slowly. "Then we become something kings can't touch." They returned to the cave. They had made into a shelter. Inside, the old man had something new, a message. It came in a pulse code, ancient and forgotten. The princess translated it word by word. "She is not the only one." The human leaned forward. "What does that mean?" The old man spoke slowly. "It means there are others like her." Her heart raced, not just her. For years she believed she was alone. The only mistake, the only child with cursed blood. But if there were others, they had to find them. The next days were spent decoding. Signals, finding coordinates, traveling from dead moons to forgotten planets. Each place told a new story. A child who disappeared. A girl whose body sparked with light. A boy who vanished into thin air when soldiers came for him. They were not myths. They were real. And like her, they were hunted. But the deeper they went, the closer they got to something darker. A name began to repeat itself in whispers. Never loud, never clear, just a title. The Collector. No one knew his face. But he was behind the disappearances. He wanted what the princess had, not just her power. Her blood. Then one night they landed on a red desert world, an outpost with no name. A lone survivor lived there, an old woman with white eyes and burns across her face. When she saw the princess, she fell to her knees. "Stormborn," she whispered, "you survived." The princess helped her up. "Who did this to you?" The woman trembled. "The Collector. He takes the gifted, he feeds on them, and he's coming for you next." The human clenched his fists. "Let him come," he said. But the woman looked at him with fear. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He's not like your empires, not like your kings." "What is he?" the princess asked. The woman's voice shook. "He was one of us." Later that night, the princess sat beside a dying fire. Her eyes were heavy, but her mind raced. A voice echoed inside her. It wasn't her father. It wasn't her mother. It was something older. Something buried in the storm. "You are the key. You are the lock. And when he finds you, everything ends." She didn't sleep that night. Neither did the human. They stared into the fire and made a vow. If the Collector wanted her, he'd have to face both of them. In the final scene of that night, the stars above flickered. For a moment, a shadow passed. Over them, a shape too large, too quiet. The jungle beasts howled. The fire died, and in the distance, a mask opened two red eyes. The Collector had arrived. The storm they tried to silence. The Collector stood at the edge of the jungle. He wore a cloak made of silence. His mask was bone-white, smooth, and empty, except for two burning red eyes. Behind him, no army, no ships. He needed none. His presence alone made the sky grow still. The trees around him rotted. The stars dimmed, and the world held its breath. Deep in the cave, the princess woke with a jolt. She felt it before she saw it, like ice spreading through her blood. The storm inside her trembled. "He's here," she whispered. The human was already awake. He had felt it too. A wrongness, a hunger in the air. They stepped outside together. No armor, no crown, just the girl with broken memories and the man who had stayed. The old man stood behind them, holding a relic, an ancient weapon sealed long ago. Its surface pulsed faintly. "You mustn't face him," he said. "He's beyond reason." The princess stepped forward.
"He's beyond mercy," she replied. The Collector took one step. The jungle bent beneath him. He spoke, not with a mouth, but with thought. His voice echoed in their skulls. "You are the last key. Come with me, and you will live. Fight me."
"And you will break." The princess didn't blink. She walked forward, one slow step at a time. The human followed, just one step behind. "Why me?" she asked. Her voice was steady. The translator barely needed to help. The collector tilted his head. Because your blood is not just stormborn. It is the source, the origin. You carry the code, the power to open the vault of worlds. The human narrowed his eyes. What vault? The collector turned toward him slowly. A prison, buried before time. Your empires forgot it. Your gods feared it. Her mother died to keep it sealed. The princess froze. My mother? She knew what you were. She tried to hide it, but blood calls blood, and I answered. For a moment, her hands shook, but the human reached for her. Didn't speak. Just held her hand. And that was enough. The collector lifted one hand. Space twisted, rocks shattered, the air screamed. But the princess stood her ground. Her eyes began to glow, bright silver. Her feet left the ground. The storm inside her awakened again. And this time, she didn't hold it back. She struck first. Light exploded from her chest. The ground split. The sky cracked. The collector raised a shield of pure darkness, but it shook under her light. They battled across the jungle. Storm against shadow. Light against hunger. The human joined the fight not with powers but with courage. He distracted. He defended. He threw the ancient relic at the collector's back, breaking his shield just long enough for the princess to land a blow that split the sky in half. But the collector was not done. He screamed, and from his mask, tendrils of black energy wrapped around her. They pulled memories. They pulled pain. They showed her visions of her mother's death, of her father's betrayal, of a future where she became the same monster. You will become me, he hissed. Your light cannot save you. But then, she heard a voice, not from outside, from within, her mother's voice. My light was not meant to save me. It was meant to give you the choice. And she made her choice. She stopped fighting and began accepting all of it, her pain, her anger, her fear, but also her hope, her human, her love. Her body glowed brighter than any sun. The collector screamed, backing away. What are you doing? She stepped toward him, burning with light. Ending you, she said, and she did. With one final cry, she unleashed all the storm she had held back for years. It wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was release. The collector's mask cracked. His body vanished, and all that was left was silence. The jungle healed. The stars brightened, and the girl who once cried alone now stood before the galaxy. Not as a mistake, but as a myth. Days passed. She sat on a hill, watching the wind move through silver grass. Beside her, the human placed a flower in her hair. Do you miss the palace? He asked. She shook her head. Do you fear they'll come again? She looked at him, smiled. No. Because this time, they'll come asking, not ordering. And across the stars, new stories began. Of a girl once rejected by all. Of a human who chose her when no one else did. Of the two who stood against the end and became the beginning.